Well, actually, when I went to veterinary school, I was the only one in the class that was interested in research. And we had an instructor who had come out of the military. He'd actually been a public health veterinarian, a very high-ranking public health veterinarian, who started a course in laboratory animal medicine there. And I actually have in my files an original copy of the Animal Welfare Act and the first set of regs, because we studied them as part of our lab animal course in 1966. So I've been dealing with the Animal Welfare Act longer than anybody in the USDA, that's for sure. And it's kind of interesting. I've just done put together a talk for the ACLAM Forum in which I went back and looked through the Animal Welfare Act, the Public Health Service Policy, and all the copies of the guide back to 1963 to try to define the environment and the evolutionary process that has led to where attending veterinarians are today, which is kind of an interesting thing. So the first, when the Animal Welfare Act first was passed, it only affected institutions which house dogs and cats or non-human primates, and then it was amended, but
could you give years, please?
Okay, it was amended in 1970.
It was first passed in
66, and then it was amended in 1970, again in 76, and then the big amendment, which made all the changes with IACUCs and everything, and which dovetailed with the changes in the Public Health Service Policy, was 1985. But I think what's important about those dates is that it was, while the amendment to the Animal Welfare Act 1985, which included the exercise for dogs requirements, actually significantly changed the definition of an attending veterinarian and the resources that an institution had to provide for adequate veterinary care, as well as the IACUC and the enrichment, was that it took 4 years, almost 6 years for some, but 4 years for the main regulations to get through the regulatory process. During that same period of time, the Public Health Service immediately could implement their policy, which was relatively identical other than reporting lines and number of people on the committee to the Animal Welfare Act. So the community had a 4-year period to learn and to grow and to refine before they ever got inspected by the USDA. And I think this was very important because learning processes are generally not amenable to close regulatory scrutiny, if you know what I mean. So we learned with little pressure because at that time it was OPRR, was a whole different ball game than it is today. And then for the first 2 or 3 years after the animal welfare regulations came into play, the VMOs from USDA were learning, what this was all about. And so we had a long period of time to kind of get our act together before regulatory scrutiny. And I think that was a big thing. I think the other thing that was very helpful back then was OPR had these roving workshops, and I happen to be a faculty on a lot of those workshops, going around the country, and people learn together. And that's something Prim&R does, is you get people in a room and they realize that whatever problems they're having are really not that unique, that somebody else is sharing your same concerns. And I mean, that's one of the things I think particularly Prim&R does, SCA does with their type of breakout sessions too, is they let people learn from others, from their peers. And I think if you realize that my problems are the same, you're not unique, it makes it a little bit easier to go home and deal with the issues.